is Anna McCain. Today we're talking with friend of the show, DJ MacHale. Following the success of his Pendragon books, DJ has written a brand new trilogy called Morpheus Road, which Publishers Weekly has called a creepy, tension-filled adventure. Book one of the series, called The Light, follows Marshall Seaver, who's experiencing some unusual problems. He's currently being haunted, and his best friend Cooper has gone missing. Along with Cooper's sister, Marshall searches for the truth and ends up discovering something so much larger than he ever could have dreamed. Morpheus Road, The Light, is in bookstores now. DJ, welcome back to Off the Shelf.
Thank you very much. I don't think I've ever done something that's first set up as, he's done something that's creepy. Like, is that good or bad?
You have. We'll get to that in the interview, but yes, you have.
It's a good creepy.
You have been quoted in saying that stories find authors. How did Morpheus Road find you?
Well, in spite of what I just said, I do a lot of creepy things. and I've always loved creepy, spooky stories. And after I did this TV show for years called Are You Afraid of the Dark? So I've done so many supernatural stories between Are You Afraid of the Dark, and I did a movie called Tower of Terror, and many things that no one has ever seen, shows that were never produced, movies that were never produced. So it's all this creepy stuff that had come out for a long time. But then I got away from that for a little while. I did a TV series for Discovery Kids called Flight 29 Down, which is basically a cross between Lord of the Flies and Gilligan's Island, about kids trapped on a tropical island. And then I did this non-creepy book series called Pendragon that you may have heard of. So I got away from that kind of spooky stuff. And once I was finishing up Pendragon, the time came for, what's next? And everyone's saying, well, okay, come on, Pendragon's done pretty soon. And my first thought was, well, what's finding me now? What do I really feel like writing? And the first thing that came to mind is creepy. That's what I do.
It just feels right.
It just feels right, and I hadn't done it in a long time. So I've said this before, that I was a little nervous about it, because it's like I hadn't written that kind of stuff in a while. So I felt like the gunslinger who hung up the shooting irons, and I'm like, oh boy, I gotta come out there and take them off the shelf and put them on to see if I could shoot. And it was just like I'd never stopped. So I just have I don't know, it's a talent for writing that creepy stuff. So the story just kind of came to me. Mm-hmm. I always write stories about young people in jeopardy, and I'm always intrigued by the possibilities of supernatural stuff. So I wanted to write a story about a guy who was being haunted, and then it just took off from there.
Right, and so does it feel good to be back into the realm of creepy? For those of you who don't know, Pendragon was a 10-book series, so this is quite a departure from what you're used to doing book-wise.
Well, anything would be a departure. 10 books is a lot of books to be. Someone asked me the other day, do you miss writing Pendragon? And no. And it's like, because I wrote a lot of Pendragon. It was 8 years of writing a lot of stories about a handful of the same characters. So writing anything different is really a good thing. But knowing that I was going to go away from a certain comfort zone, which Pendragon was, I mean, you do anything for that long, it becomes a comfort zone. So going out of that comfort zone, but knowing I was stepping back into what was another comfort zone, made it much easier to do.
Well, you're still setting both series in the same town in Stony Brook, Connecticut, right?
That's right.
And is that kind of a gift to your fans, and kind of reminding them that, this is, remember me, this is so great, but a little bit different?
Sort of. I think, I'll be perfectly honest, this came from meetings here at Simon & Schuster about, oh boy, DJ's doing something completely different. How are Pendragon fans going to respond to this? And someone here at Simon & Schuster said, is there anything you could do that kind of ties it into Pendragon? And my initial thought was, no, it's a completely different story, and I don't want these stories to be tied in any way. But then I thought, well, wait a minute. This is about a kid who's from a small town. Mm-hmm. Why don't I just make that same small town Stony Brook? And immediately it clicked. And it's been really fun to write that, because certainly nothing of the Morpheus Road story is like the Pendragon story, other than my writing style. Mm-hmm. But it's really fun to literally go back to physical places in the story that I've been to before, and throw in a lot of little tidbits from Pendragon that I know Pendragon readers are saying, oh, right. Like, for example, there's Stony Brook is based on my hometown of Greenwich, Connecticut, actually. So you could go to Greenwich and see a lot of these places that I write about. A lot of them don't exist anymore because I'm old.
Oh, I disagree. But continue.
Well, and one place in particular I talk about is this deli used to be called Garden Poultry. It's no longer there. And there used to be a grammar school right next to it, which is no longer there. And I went to first grade at this grammar school, and we used to go to this deli after school to get these amazing French fries, these deep-fried, spicy type things. And I write about those fries, or I did write about them in Pendragon. And so I put that into Morpheus Road in the reference, and I know darn well the Pendragon readers are going to read this and just say, oh, right, the Garden Poultry fries, that's great.
Moment like your mom.
Well, that would be more like, what kind of moment would that be? That would be oh, yeah, as opposed to, ooh, yeah.
Or like a, yeah.
Yeah.
Tasty.
There you go. Yeah, Garden Poultry fries.
All right, so you have to share with us now that we're talking about creepy and scary. What is your favorite scary movie, your oh, yeah movie?
Oh, yeah movie. I do have one, and it's scary. Usually when people ask me, I don't know about you, but people ask me, what's your favorite this or what's your favorite that? It never is necessarily the best of that. Like, what's your favorite movie? And my favorite movie isn't necessarily the best movie that was ever made, but I have some other reasons why it's my favorite.
Okay.
On the ooh yeah level, I was about, I don't remember, maybe 5 or 6 years old, and my sister and her then boyfriend took me to see Sword in the Stone, a Disney film.
Okay.
Horrifying. No, that wasn't. This is back in the days where the kiddie matinee would be an animated film or a kids movie, and then they clear out all the kids and then bring in whatever the adult movie was, the grown-up movie there was. And the grown-up movie that day was this cheesy Italian horror movie called Black Sabbath.
And in relation to the band?
No, but whenever I hear the band, believe me, my palms start sweating. You people have no idea what you're talking. You're opening up a Pandora's box of creepy. And it was, God, I remember it so well. I've not seen it since then, but there were 3 stories. It was a trilogy. And I remember all 3 of them. It's amazing. But I begged my sister. I was like, please, can we stay? Please, please, can we just stay in this thing? And she and her boyfriend are like, oh, okay. Totally irresponsible. They should not have stayed for this thing. There were 3 stories, 2 of which were forgettable, even though I remember them, but they're not worth relating.
Okay.
But there was one about a medium who died, and a nurse was hired to come in to prepare the body for the funeral or whatever. And the nurse steals the medium's schmancy ring that she has.
Huge mistake.
Oh, man. You have no idea. So the rest of the movie, it was really an exercise in tension of what's going to happen. I'm jumping to the chase here, but the nurse is then haunted by sounds and she knows this medium is coming back, who's a purported witch, by the way. She's coming back to get the ring back. And there's a moment where she does come back. Something subtle about it. And the thing that I remember so much about it is the look of this medium was hideous. It was like big orange hair and this pasty fit. I had nightmares about that movie. Just last night, in fact. I still think but for years and years, I had nightmares.
Terrifying.
It sounds terrifying. I would love to see it today because I would probably laugh at it. But at the time, it was horrifying. And I think that set me on a road of creepy, because shortly after that, my best friend when I was a little kid, Frank, and I used to go to the Saturday horror matinee at this theater every week to see the weirdest horror movies you've never seen or heard of before, but they've warped me my entire life. They're all
and now look at you. Thankfully
exactly.
You had those matinees.
Well, one of the things I always say to kids when they say, what's your advice about writing? Besides the obvious read a lot and write a lot, I say that you have to write about things that you know, because all of life is an experience, and you're constantly filling up your hard drive of experience, and that's what you draw upon when you try to write later on. And so that's why I think that's why a lot of young people write fantasy, because they don't have that much to draw upon. Right. So they make up stuff like, oh, we're going to the planet Nimnak.
You get away with a lot. Right?
Yeah, and it's total fantasy. but with all of my stuff, certainly through Pendragon, through 10 books of Pendragon, every conflict, every issue in that book is based on some form of reality that I then blow up to fantastical proportions.
Oh, wonderful.
So I truly think being steeped in media and stories like that from the time I was little certainly must have influenced the warped individual that I am right now.
And so let's talk about another book that you have coming out this year, The Monster Princess.
Yes. Now, it's a creepy book for little kids. No. The Monster Princess is, boy, talk about something completely different. I'm going from digging up graves and destroying universes to writing pink and purple and sparkly. And it's actually kind of funny.
It's so pink and cute. I love it.
It really is. And it's really wonderful. And I can say it's wonderful because I didn't do the illustration. So I'm okay to compliment it. The woman, a wonderful artist by the name of Alexandra Boyger, did the illustrations. And they are just amazing. But it was funny. Yesterday I was at a bookstore. And when I sign books at a bookstore, I have bookmarks that I sign and give to anybody who gets a book. And so I thought, I should bring some Monster Princess. I have Monster Princess postcards.
So cute.
And so I had these on the table, and I'm looking at these two things together. I've got Gravedigger from Morpheus Road on this one, and right next to it is the Monster Princess. I'm like, ooh, these one of these things does not belong with the other. But the Monster Princess it jumped from. Everyone always said, what inspired you to write these things? And usually I don't have an answer to that. In the case of the Monster Princess, I do. And it's probably a typical story, but I can be more specific than the typical part of it. I have a 6-year-old daughter. And a couple of years ago, she's a real girly girl. I don't know where that came from, because I'm not a girly girl, and my wife isn't a girly girl.
You do a lot of hiking and outdoorsy activities too, where you live.
Yeah, so. It's kind of like that movie, the TV show Family Ties. Remember Family Ties, where it's like the two really kind of hippie parents have the young Republican son, and oddly enough, it's complete life imitating art. The name of that family was the Keaton family. Mm-hmm. My daughter's name is Keaton.
Oh.
Not because of that TV show, but so suddenly my wife was a very outdoorsy, hiking kind of person, and I'm a guy. Suddenly we come up with Little Miss Sunshine, and I'm like, I don't know where you came from. But key to this is that a couple of years ago I got a call from her preschool, and they said, Keaton had an accident. Like, oh my gosh, she ran into a wall. Like, okay, fine. So I went to pick her up, and it turns out that is exactly what happened. I'm first thinking, oh, wait a minute, something happened here. But it turns out she was just like, la, 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 and spinning around and boof, and hit the wall with her face. And she was fine. I took her to the emergency room. So all the damage was soft tissue damage. But it looked like she was in a train wreck. It was horrible. And the next day, she had one of her little princess costumes, little Cinderella costume she had wore. And I took a picture of her. And here's this cute little girl in her princess costume and her little tiara and her little wand with a face that looked like, Adrian, it's like Rocky after the fight. And like a light bulb went on, and I thought, wow, little girls have two different sides to their brain. And here's this girl who loves dressing up and being pink and purple and sparkly, but then she's digging in the dirt while wearing these pink and purple. She used to wear her ruby slippers while she's looking for roly-poly bugs in the dirt. So I thought, it's interesting. Wouldn't it be fun to write a story about this girl who's conflicted, sort of, about who she really is? So I came up with this character of Lala, who is a monster. She's this little troll who lives in where it's dark and gloomy and not very roomy, down in these caves. But she wants to be a schmancy princess. And she looks at these princesses up, and they live in this castle, which are just cliche, typical, beautiful princesses. And the story starts out where this beautiful thing where these three princesses and these girls were as precious as 12-carat gems. However, this tale is not about them. And then you turn the page and it goes down to the so it's this kind of dichotomy of this little girl who wants to be a princess, but of course finds out that she's pretty cool the way she is without being a princess, and she goes on this big adventure. So it was really a kind of a labor of love. And I know Simon & Schuster was a little bit leery about this. It's like, Pendragon, Morpheus Road. but they said, okay, in full credit, everybody said, okay, go for it. See what you can do. And I had full confidence because I knew this was going to be good. I think I was the only one who knew this was going to be good.
Oh, no. Your editor knew it was going to be good.
Yeah, Justin was pretty cool. He did know it was going to be good. We were the two. And I shouldn't say that because everyone's always being very nice. Oh, how's that monster coming along? When's Morpheus going to be done? and I had a really wonderful experience. I was at this big book expo convention a couple of years ago. We were in the process of doing this, and the editor, Justin, said, well, what kind of illustrations do you want? What do you see Monster Princess being like? And I was like, well, I have this vision, but I don't really know. I don't really know a lot of illustrators. I don't know, and I can barely draw breath, so I'm not going to draw. And so I was at this big convention. I thought, what a perfect time to do a little research. And so I started walking down the aisles of this big convention center, going to all the kids' booths, and there was this one book that was like a light was shining on this book. And I was like, that's it. That's the illustrator. And I grabbed the book, and I showed it to Justin later on. I said, what do you think of her? And he's like, she was first on my list.
Oh,
I think he was lying. I think he was lying, but I think he was, but I'll give it to him. It's like fine. And she did it, and she just did a spectacular job. So that comes out in August, and I just can't wait. I've already been to some schools and reading and whatnot, so I'm like a star at my daughter's school right now because the Pendragon, they don't know about Pendragon, and Morpheus Road, forget about that. But those first graders, they love Monster Princess.
As they should.
Exactly. Or at least they're being very nice, too.
Well, DJ, thanks for joining us today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you about everything that you've got coming up with us that's brand new for your readers.
Thank you very much. It is always a pleasure.
Oh, well, and the first book of the Morpheus Road series is published by Aladdin. You can find out more about DJ MacHale's new book at simonandschuster.com.